Quick one, nothing here is financial advice. It's for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always do your own research or speak to a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Enjoy the episode and like and subscribe.
GM and welcome back to the channel. In this one, we're breaking down Core DAO. This is the first Bitcoin-aligned EVM Layer 1 blockchain. And so I'm going to take you through a 30,000 foot overview of how this works, how it's constructed, and the ecosystem being built out here, and some of the real key talking points for this one. Now, the quick TLDR. Core is utilizing the most decentralized asset for security in Bitcoin, harnessing its hash power and pairing that with the most lindy of smart contracts, utilizing the EVM to unlock Bitcoin as the core protector and central asset of a DeFi ecosystem. So as they state on screen here on their homepage, at coredao.org, build with EVM compatible smart contracts on a Bitcoin-powered blockchain. Now, this has been live on mainnet since January of 2023. Millions of addresses have interacted with this chain, and they are really making some serious moves right now. So let's jump in. Core's consensus method is a great place to start off here. It's called the Satoshi plus consensus. And this aligns the best of both worlds from Bitcoin and Ethereum. And they previously have had this tagline of, if you took the best elements of Bitcoin and of ETH, pushed those together, made a baby, you would have Core. Now, I really like this tagline. You have Bitcoin, the hardest of money, digital gold, with an unbelievable narrative and the most secure network in existence. So harnessing the security of that would make a lot of sense. And then on the flip side, we have Ethereum with the EVM bringing smart contracts, scalability, and composability. That lindiness of the EVM is very strong. People have the muscle memory. They know how to use it, as it's been around for quite some time at this point. And for devs, it's very easy to integrate with. So obviously it makes sense if you want to build out an ecosystem to have something to plug and play with. So what we have here is the combination of the best elements, proof of work coming from Bitcoin, proof of stake coming from ETH, and we have the spawning of a narrative called BTC-Fi, Bitcoin Finance, i.e. DeFi for Bitcoin. Just think about the scope for this. You have Bitcoin, over $1 trillion asset class. If you can unlock some of that into TVL for your chain, you're going to have one of the biggest chains by TVL in existence. And there's a full spectrum of risk and rewards within the DeFi landscape of Core. From the more Bitcoin maxi perspective, there are low risk routes to take, and then you can go more degen as we progress, which we'll look at in this video. So who's behind Core DAO? Who are the lead contributors of note? Well, if you've done some research into this, and if you've seen some of the podcasts Jedi's been doing with Rich Rhines, he is one of the leading faces of Core, but there are many contributors out there, 60 plus by my counts, all pursuing the same goal here of creating a BTC-Fi ecosystem and really enhancing the product offering from a Bitcoin and first principles viewpoints. So Rich here, previously from Coinbase's money movement engineering team, has a lot of experience, is a very, very good speaker as well, and is kind of the ideas guy behind Core. I would also shout out as well to Brendan Sado, who in following on Twitter, I've got quite a lot of information from as well. So these two guys, if you can follow them on Twitter, I think you will be able to keep up to date with the main happenings over at Core DAO. Now, this is also a larger distributed global network of contributors, people who are mining, and they really seem to have captured lightning in a bottle, as there's a huge demand from Bitcoin miners, holders, and the coretoshis enthusiasts to make this a serious success. So highly recommend checking out some of the podcasts between Jedi and Rich here, a lot of which are on a Blockmates Orange. So a quick look at the landscape here on DeFi Llama. So if you just go to Bitcoin sidechains, and you can see the kind of makeup here, TVL wise, you can see Core 22% of all the TVL thus far that the Bitcoin sidechains have managed to accrue. And it comes in ranked as number 2 out of quite a lot of competition on there for TVL thus far, $300 million in TVL. And you can see from the amount of protocols being tracked on Core's chain, it states 42 here, but From the podcasts I've been listening to, this is well over 100. So I don't think DeFi Llama tracks them all as of yet, and there's a lot going on within the core chain environment and lots of builders over there. So let's jump into the technicals a bit more here around the consensus method, the Satoshi plus consensus method, integrating the best of delegated proof of work to combine Bitcoin hash power into the security of the chain, core chain, plus then enabling delegated proof of stake. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with staking and how that works, but there's a third core component here as well, non-custodial BTC staking, allowing for Bitcoin holders to also get involved and provide some crypto economic security. So we'll start with delegated proof of work. And just to take a little step back, mining Bitcoin has become more and more expensive. Obviously, if you were doing that from home, maybe 10 years ago, you'd have been fine. But with the progress of these institutions getting involved, you're fighting versus huge mining farm operations out there. So what you have is people delegating their hash power to mining pools, as collectively multiple miners are more likely with their combined hash power to mine the next block than doing so individually. So what Core introduced was delegated proof of work. This is actually similar to merge mining, where Bitcoin miners can delegate their proof of work, their hash power, to the Core network with minimal effort. All they have to do is add some data to what is known as the Coinbase transaction. No, not the exchange. This is the first transaction in a newly mined block, specifying which validator they would like to delegate to. Then in return for doing this, they not only receive, because they're still mining the Bitcoin, they're going to get their Bitcoin rewards, they're also receiving Core rewards on top. So they have an additional source of revenue. So miners get more revenue, Core gets security from that hash power. It seems like a real win-win. And I would suggest that this alignment between Bitcoin miners and the Core chain is a real string to the bow and one of the unique selling points here of Core, as this enforces crypto economic alignment, providing that supplemental income to the Bitcoin miners. They can then reinvest those funds into improving the security of their operations and thus increasing the security of the Bitcoin network, which in turn then helps further secure the Core network. So a real symbiotic relationship. Then over to the right hand side, delegated proof of stake. This is for the Core token holders to help secure the Core chain. So holders of Core would stake them and delegate them to a validator. Then in return for this, they will receive a yield. The validators that have received the delegated stake are then able to mine blocks and distribute them as staking rewards. Now what Core have really taken note of is the accessibility here. So in order to delegate some Core to a validator, the minimum stake is just 1 Core, which is roughly around $1 as we're filming here. So very, very low barrier to entry. You're not blocking people out. This obviously is very much in alignment with decentralization. So we have the Bitcoin miners, we have the Core stakers and holders, plus we're also integrating within this consensus method Bitcoin holders as well. So you don't have to be a miner of Bitcoin, just a simple holder. And through that non-custodial Bitcoin staking solution, you can stake Bitcoin and earn yield in the Core token. So additional crypto economic security to the Core chain. We'll jump into how the non-custodial Bitcoin staking works in just a moment. So just thinking about the blockchain trilemma here, how do you simultaneously achieve decentralization, security, and scalability? The core solution to this is we have the security of the most powerful network via this delegated proof of work from the Bitcoin miners. We then utilize proof of stake for scalability, and they achieve decentralization via Core being utilized as the governance token of this network. And as the name would suggest, Core DAO, it is operated as a DAO. So this is the staking page, stake.core.org. You can see Bitcoin staked to Core, almost 5,000 Bitcoins, over $200 million. You can see the amount of Core delegated, over 147 million Core tokens. That would be over $147 million worth. And you can see the hash rate here, which is just a phenomenal number. So this is the amount of hash rate on Core blockchain versus the overall hash rate on the Bitcoin network. So the Bitcoin network hash rate, 613 exahashes, and Core has over 320 exahashes delegated to its network. So that is over 50% of the Bitcoin network also helping secure core, which is just phenomenal. So just to touch further on the validators, as these are an important role for core, each 24 hours, the validator set for core actually changes. And this is based upon what's known as a hybrid score. An election occurs and a fresh set of the top 21 validators actually then get selected to validate the blockchain. So how is this made up? Well, as we talked about earlier, those three prongs: delegated proof of work, i.e. how much hash rate is being contributed to a particular validator. As you can see, this is the middle metric in here. How much delegated core via proof of stake is coming to this specific validator, and how much non-custodial Bitcoin is being staked with that validator as well. So all of that data is transparently shown within here. So each and every day, these validators get a brand new score and thus are ranked, and the top 21 are then selected and of course receive the block rewards for the work carried out. Subsequently to the newly minted core, which is the block rewards, they also get transaction fees collected each and every block. So that is their incentive. So quick high-level overview of the security of this network. There are various roles, one of which is known as a verifier. Anyone can become a verifier. And essentially this is a role on the network where they're looking out for malicious activity and thus flagging any if they see it. If you successfully do flag some malicious activity, this then results in the slashing of that validator's stake, or potentially just jailing them from the network, depending how egregious what they've done is. Just taking that back to the validators then, obviously if they do get slashed, this affects their hybrid score. So they're incentivized to behave in the correct manner in order to maintain themselves in that top set with the best hybrid score to ensure they continue to get those economic rewards. Then we have the dual usage of delegated proof of work and delegated proof of stake, which makes it nigh on impossible for things such as selfish mining to occur. This is where someone could mine blocks in secret. Then due to that quick turnover of the validator set every 24 hours, it makes it very difficult for anyone to mount a 51% attack on the network, because we've seen the hybrid score would be immediately affected and they'll probably be kicked out of the validator set in that next 24-hour period. On screen here, we have the main use cases and the building blocks in place for this BTC-Fi ecosystem on core. Now, each of these come with various trust assumptions and with that risks. So I just want to talk through each of these. Now, first and foremost, you can see HTLC atomic swaps. So atomic swaps are coming to core. HTLC stands for hashed time lock contract. So this one is coming soon from what I'm hearing murmurings online. Now we have non-custodial BTC staking. So this will be the least risky yield that you can generate on your Bitcoin. So full spectrum of risks here. Behind my head, it says core staking. And alongside that, kind of adjacent to this, is now a liquid staking token, stCORE. So this is for individuals holding core tokens who wish to stake them, but also kind of have their cake and eat it too, utilize those stake tokens within a DeFi ecosystem. And then finally, down the bottom, you can see coreBTC. This is Core's native Bitcoin wrapping solution, literally bridging Bitcoin from the L1 into the core chain. So let's take a look at these. So non-custodial Bitcoin staking, we're going to look at how this works, the benefits, but let's take a quick step back. Bitcoin itself does not have a staking yield. Holders can't generate revenue from just simply hodling. So this solution here brings about a key change in that those who wish to hodl and maintain the mantra of not your keys, not your crypto, can still do so. So how is this done? Well, this involves time locks. So there is an opportunity cost here. The time locks are a Bitcoin native way of locking the outputs so they can't be spent. So you are time locking your BTC, can't spend it, can't do anything with it. So that is the opportunity cost. But on the flip side, you'll receive core tokens as a yield for providing crypto economic security. So rather than giving up custody of your Bitcoin in order to generate yields, you place your Bitcoin in this absolute time lock as part of a simple transaction, and the transaction is then designed to return your Bitcoin to you, i.e. make it spendable by yourself and usable once the time period has elapsed. So key benefits of this, the Bitcoin remains on Bitcoin L1 at all times. It never leaves. So it says here, Bitcoin isn't locked in core smart contracts. It's locked on the Bitcoin chain using native functionalities. And on top of this, there's no new trust assumptions with this. So it is tried and true, tested out, and this is being referred to as almost a risk-free yield on BTC. As we saw earlier, this contributes to that crypto economic security of the core chain as you are delegating your staked Bitcoin to a validator, but there's no slashing threat for these BTC stakers on core, but it is the validators who post up collateral who could be slashed, but BTC delegators face zero risk. So if you did want to get involved with this and try it out for yourself, Emery created a full run through, a guide on how to stake your BTC directly with core, fully non-custodial. Check out this solution, article on blocmates.com. If we just go to the validators here, you can see top right hand corner, we have the button Delegate. You would select BTC to do this, and you can run through the various steps to earn the BTC reward rate. So this is the reward rate paid out in core tokens. Depending on the validator, their commissions, etc., this so-called risk-free yield rate is around 4%. You can get up to 4.5%, even 5% with some of the validators. And you can almost now think of this as the kind of base reward rates for Bitcoin. Like, if you can receive this risk-free, why would you go and maybe lend out your Bitcoin for anything less than this risk-free rate? It kind of therefore creates almost a floor for yield for Bitcoin. And surely this will mean a lot of products get created adjacent to this as a result. So a very key component here. Now, if you're thinking, will there be demand for this? Well, yes, there is, not just on a consumer level, but also on an institutional level here. As per this blog post, introducing the world's first yield-bearing Bitcoin ETP. So this in conjunction with Valor, I believe this is kind of Scandinavia and Germany based. And this product allows for the generation of yield on top of Bitcoin in this kind of world's first for Bitcoin. So pretty groundbreaking stuff, what they've been able to achieve with this. And there definitely seems to be a huge appetite for this. So I expect this to be a growth story for this cycle. Quick note, there is a minimum amount and duration for doing this. So you have to stake at least 0.01. So 1% of a Bitcoin or 1,000,000 Satoshis, and for at least 10 days as a minimum duration. So do take that into account if you want to give this a test run. The next primitive here is coreBTC. So this is a wrapped version of Bitcoin on the core chain. You can see via this application here, you can take your Bitcoin from BTC, the L1, onto core chain, wrap it into coreBTC. Now with this interface, I believe it will also give you a little bit of core as gas on the core chain if this is your first transaction in. So what is coreBTC? It's a synthetic representation of Bitcoin, your Bitcoin, on the core chain. This enables you to obviously interact with the many DeFi applications being built on top of core. And this, of course, is more risky than non-custodial staking. Higher risk, but potentially higher rewards, as you could utilize your coreBTC across DeFi applications, maybe lend it out, trade it, whatever you want to do. So quick overview of how the process would work. You would be the user with some BTC and you would deposit your Bitcoin to a locker. So a locker plays a pivotal role here as they are responsible for holding the Bitcoin that backs coreBTC one-to-one with the actual Bitcoin. So a user sends their BTC to the locker into their address in order to initiate the wrapping process. Once confirmed, the relayers then send proof to the coreBTC smart contracts, which will then mint an equivalent amount of coreBTC. One thing to note, Core itself actually runs one of these lockers, so that may be a preferred route. And these lockers must contribute a significant amount of collateral in the form of core tokens in order to carry out this role. Any malfeasance, that collateral can be liquidated as a result. Once a valid transaction is detected, it will essentially send the coreBTC to the wallet of said user. You would then have coreBTC on the core chain. There's also a reverse process for this whereby the user burns their coreBTC to redeem their BTC back on mainnet. Now, this system has been running since Q1 of 2024, handling millions of dollars thus far. So whilst it seems secure for now, of course, there are risks associated with this. And if you want to check out the docs, we'll leave them down below to see all the various assumptions and technical specs. Then we have stCORE. This is liquid staked core, and this goes a step beyond just vanilla staking your core tokens for yield. And clearly by making this a liquid representation of staked core, this is going to boost the DeFi TVL across this ecosystem. Interface for this is super intuitive. You come, if you've got a core balance on the core chain, an EVM compatible wallet, you can mint stCORE against your core balance and receive the current staking reward around 9%. And what you can notice down here, 1 stCORE equals 1.12 core, and that conversion ratio will continue to go up as the stCORE continues to receive those staking rewards, and thus it becomes more valuable over time. Now, LSTs, broadly, liquid staking tokens, have become a very big topic in cryptocurrency. We've seen this with Ethereum, LSTs doing exceptionally well. And this is kind of the stETH moment, but for BTC-Fi as I see it. So key advantages here, both staked core like the vanilla way and stCORE, you're receiving the staking rewards. But if you use the liquid staking token, you're getting these compounded rewards day after day, plus you maintain the liquidity of your tokens to utilize across DeFi. Essentially, you can have your cake and eat it too, as I see it. Utilize the DeFi applications with your stCORE. And as this heats up, we're going to see more use cases, restaking protocols, that kind of stuff. And this will help boost the TVL on core overall. Then one thing to mention, there is a 7-day withdrawal period for redeeming your stCORE back into native core. And of course, out of the various use cases we've looked at here, this would be the more degen of all of them in my eyes. Let's jump into the core token economics and the actual breakdown of the token distribution here to start, because really interesting, a lot of these tokens will make their way into the hands of their users on core chain, and also those helping secure the validator sets via Bitcoin hash power, via Bitcoin staking, and of course, core staking as well. So as you can see, the gray area on there is roughly 40% of all of the core tokens going to node mining. So this is the block rewards going to those securing the network. And that's a very healthy distribution there, 40%. In terms of core, there will be 2.1 billion as a max supply that is hard capped. And the distribution of that is over an 81-year period. So a long emissions schedule there. So if we just think about the supplementary income to Bitcoin miners over time, they're going to have rewards for 80 years still from this day going forwards if they continue to essentially merge mine core with their BTC. The users portion behind my head is 25%. This is given out as incentives such as airdrops. There's also an ignition campaign for utilizing the dApps on chain. So a lot of incentives ongoing. 25% is very healthy indeed. Will help to decentralize the user base. And this is very important for the DAO governance and the movement towards a fully fledged DAO and progressive decentralization of core. Core contributors around 15% of supply, treasury 9.5%, reserves at 10%, and the relayers for their process in securing things, they get roughly 0.5%, plus they get some transaction fees also. Now, as you would expect, core as its own layer 1, the gas used on the core chain is, of course, the core token itself. So it's a gas token, as you would expect. It's also used in staking, as we mentioned, with delegated proof of stake, but also for on-chain governance and helping to govern the core DAO. One of the things that you could vote for potentially is the amount of burn that takes place. So a portion of the base rewards and transaction fees will be burned, similar to Ethereum with EIP 1559 and the whole ultrasound money arguments. Well, here we have core potentially being ultrasound money itself. Core token, as we film, roughly about $1 billion in market cap, just over $1. Early in the year, it spiked up to an all-time high of $6 according to some exchanges. It is also on and listed on Coinbase, which I think is rather big news, and a load of large centralized exchanges. Onto community, millions of transactions on chain, millions of wallets as well, interacting with the chain. CoreDAO on Twitter has 2.2 million followers. And having looked through some of the cash tags, etc., you can see that this is very much an East meets West approach with a lot of, I would say, Chinese investors very bullish on Core, which is very interesting. This big overlap maybe accounts for the fact they've got some serious numbers there. And their community, called the coretoshis community, which is very memeable in itself, seems to be a rather strong and almost cult-like vibe I'm getting from it, which is a bullish factor. Core have also partnered with Layer 0. This will bring omnichain fungible tokens to Core and also connect it seamlessly via its bridge infrastructure to a load of other chains. This is obviously very important. Multi-chain is the way that the world is going in crypto. And what's more, CoreDAO is expecting to develop a native bridge powered by Layer 0 that builders could then seamlessly use and integrate it with their products, which will greatly expand the pie for this ecosystem and its development. Here is the Core bridge powered by Layer 0 and the various chains you can bridge from and into the Core chain Layer 1. Another interesting point here, Rich posted about this in terms of dual staking. He's saying, look, what we have decided to do here is actually boost and bolster the rates of staking rewards in Core for those who not only stake their BTC, the non-custodial BTC staking, but also stake their Core as well. So if you do both steps, you will then get a booster to your risk-free rate, as they call it, unlocking even higher yields, and so creating this economic alignment. So BTC maxis who maybe want to stake and earn Core yields may now also become Core longer-term holders as they want to bolster their overall staking rates. And on the flip side as well, you may get people who are staking the Core token who are like, yep, I'm going to now stake some BTC because I want to hit that max booster, as we know how gamification works for humans. Here is the Core ecosystem on DeFi Llama, TVL at 302 mil, going up like a bit of a hockey stick there. Number 1 and number 2, Pel Network restaking, so liquid staking tokens and then restaking as a clear next venture in this DeFi ecosystem. CoLend is a lending protocol, as the name would suggest. They've got DEXs, derivatives, even gaming on here. And I think this lists like 42 protocols on DeFi Llama, but from listening to the podcasts, this should be in the 100 plus kind of realm. So Pel Network with their restaking, very interested to see how this takes off as yet another building block for the DeFi ecosystem and landscape on Core. CoLend as well have had a good play around on this simple borrow lend platform, works very smoothly. And as you can see, top up here, Core Ignition program, deposit now and earn additional rewards. So incentivization going on via this also. So some final thoughts from myself here. This is a very interesting ecosystem that is looking to tap into the huge total addressable markets of that Bitcoin TVL. And I love the fact they're seeking alignment with the Bitcoin miners with a huge amount of hash power, delegated to Core. This makes it super secure, gives it a real one-up versus much of the competition in my mind. And what we're seeing and what we hear is a lot of people FUD BTC saying, what if the block rewards aren't enough? Well, this supplemental income from Core rewards, which will last yet another 80 years, kind of answers that and says, look, if you have a Bitcoin aligned Layer 1 and you supply a bit of that economic security to it, you can receive the additional income, which in turn obviously boosts the security of the Bitcoin network itself. So major kudos to that symbiotic relationship. Then in terms of the levels of risk they're catering for, I think it's been interesting to see that Bitcoin maxis maybe have a bigger risk appetite than people thought they would. And there's levels at which you can dip your toes in here, from the non-custodial all the way through to liquid restaking and doing degen stuff in DeFi. It does cater for that full range of appetites. So I'm very intrigued to see how things develop here. This is new ground. Oftentimes new ground is the most fruitful, especially in crypto. So looking forward to the future updates from Core. We'll see you in the next one. Subscribe if you're new. Peace.